All right, class, we're moving now on to the third and final section of building our muscles in clay. So we'll start off, we're moving now down to the lower extremity, and the first muscle that we're going to do is the adductor brevis. So adductor brevis, if we break that word down, we get addition or adduction. We're moving that limb towards the center of mass, and then brevis being short. So it is a short adductor, and we can see that muscle right here. I'm going to highlight that right here. So it's this short little adductor. We have other adductors, but this first one is most proximal. Its origin is the inferior pubic ramus. And then it inserts onto the femur. So we can see, if we look back again at this diagram over here, we have that pubic ramus right there, that pubic bone on the pelvis, and then we insert onto the femur right here, that femur, from going from that insertion point, origin point over here on that inferior pubic ramus to the insertion point over here on the femur. And so then the action is going to be adduction and flexion. So by the name adductor brevis, we will get that adduction. It's the key right there to know that it gives you a key to its action in its own name. So then if we move, we're moving superficially. In that previous picture, the adductor longus was cut, but the adductor longus muscle, similar to adductor brevis. In this diagram, the adductor brevis is partially covered up by the pectineus, but the adductor longus, we have the origin here, same thing on that inferior pubic ramus, and a similar insertion on the femur. So if we go here, superior pubic ramus. So when you're building these, just remember that adductor brevis is going to be deep to the adductor longus, and that the adductor longus is going to have an insertion that's a little bit more superficial to the brevis. So longus, it's a little bit longer, so it shares that an insertion. It's similar insertion, a little bit broader, a little bit farther down on the shaft from the adductor brevis, right? You can see in this cutaway picture from the adductor brevis, the adductor longus inserts just distally to the adductor brevis. So inserts onto the femur. And its action is going to be the same as the adductor brevis. It is going to be adduction and flexion. Okay. Now moving on, we're moving distally once again. So there are two calf muscles that we're going to cover now. Your calf is made up of two muscles, The deep muscle is called the soleus. It's a little bit broader, a little bit flatter. Deals with inner calf. So this isn't a muscle that you necessarily will see on people. You can palpate this if you look at kind of that rounded shape of your calf. If you're pushing off of the floor, just posterior to your tibia on the medial side, you can feel your soleus right there. When you push down real hard, you can feel that soleus contract, or even distally to where the belly of your gastroc, or the what we commonly know as the calf, right? So here's the gastroc with its kind of dual head shape, that similar to the bicep, right? It has two heads, bipennate muscle shape. Soleus is deeper to the gastroc. So that calf muscle there. So its origin is the fibular head. And the soleal line. The soleal line is a little diagonal line going from superior laterally to inferior medially. So it goes from right about here down this way over here. And so that's that attachment. So it has this broad origin right there, and then it inserts onto the calcaneal tuberosity right here on the calcaneus. So it has that insertion right there. So then when we think about the action of the muscle, since we're inserting onto that calcaneal tuberosity, and that is behind the actual ankle joint, the only action that we can really have is, and since the soleus only crosses one joint, is going to be plantar flexion. Okay. And so then if we move superficially to the gastroc, it's a bipennate. So it has those two heads right here, right? We have one head and two heads, okay? And they both both have a common insertion point into that calcaneal tuberosity right there. So our origin is going to be so we'll do insertion first, that calcaneal tuberosity. And the origin is a little bit different. It's a little bit more proximal than the soleus. And the gastroc not only crosses the ankle joint, but it also crosses the knee joint. So if we cross the ankle and knee posteriorly right here, the action of the gastroc is going to be plantar flexion and knee flexion. Okay, so now that we know the gastroc inserts onto that calcaneal tuberosity right here, so let's highlight our muscle right here. So we have the gastroc right here. So if we cross the ankle and knee, if we look more proximally, it's not we can't really appreciate it all that well in this image, but you may be able to see it a little bit better on the individual muscle videos that are on Canvas. The origin is going to be the medial and lateral epicondyles of the femur. The femur. So that is what's going to allow the gastroc to help with a little bit of knee flexion and plantar flexion. It is not one of the primary knee flexors, but it does help in knee flexion. All right. So those are your 4 muscles for today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me by email, and I will try and get back to you as soon as I can.